with April Fools.
We are live.
Okay, great. Welcome everybody to Senate Economic Development, Housing and General Affairs. It is April Fool's Day. And I'm bemoaning the loss of the lack of April Fools thus far. So I welcome our creative selves. And maybe our two committee members are coming up with some great April Fool's joke. Anyway, we are going to start. We've just launched the day with our fair housing hearing as we celebrate the beginning of Fair Housing Month, which is April. And we are turning to another equity issue in some ways, which is our ticketing bill, H512. And our legislative council, we were going to begin with our legislative council, but we're not going to. He's listening online. We have everybody online today because they're either in the UK or in California, two very disparate time zones.
Or Rutland.
Oh, we have one in Rutland. Oh, great. Oh, we have the Paramount. Do we have the Paramount today? We do. We have Eric. Great. So we're going to start with Adam, who I believe is in England. Is that correct?
That's correct. Hello.
Adam, welcome. And we're going to begin with you. For all of you, we're just going to introduce ourselves first, although there are 3/5 of us, and we'll have Tom and Keisha introduce themselves when they arrive. David, do you want to start?
Good morning. Good morning, you guys. Good morning. Dave Weeds, representing Rutland County.
Randy Brock, representing Franklin County and Northern Grand Isle County.
And Allison Clarkson, representing the Windsor District on the east side of Vermont. Welcome to you all. It's great to have you as we address this issue, which is of the matters to all of us in one way or another. So Adam, welcome.
Hello. I've prepared, I prepared a very long presentation, but I've been cutting it down drastically. So how long have I got?
Well, sort of 5-10 minutes. We have, I think, an hour on this, and you're sharing four other people. We have an hour and 15 minutes. So 10 minutes, and then we'll ask questions.
Perfect. I'll try and do it in 5. So
you actually, we're delighted zooming in for me. And Keisha and Tom have arrived, so we're just going to add their introductions.
Here we are.
Keisha, introduce yourself.
Keisha Rockinsdale,
Tom Chittenden, same district.
Great. Adam, go for it.
thank you. Thank you for having me as well. Just one word of warning before I start as well. I'll make reference to various secondary ticketing platforms. There's some complication though in terms of Viagogo in the UK is StubHub in the US, but we also have another StubHub in the UK. It's slightly complicated.
That's a little complicated. But it's also known as GoGo?
But Viagogo.
Viagogo.
Yeah. So when I talk about Viagogo, that is your equivalent of StubHub. It's the same operators and owners. So just as a little bit of background, so Fanfare Alliance was formed nearly 10 years ago now. It was originally founded by the UK's Music Managers Forum, which is an advocacy group for music managers. And then 4 managers in particular representing artists, including Mumford & Sons, Arctic Monkeys, One Direction and Radiohead, came together to form this campaign against industrial scale online ticket touting. We had a lot of successes in the pre-pandemic, which I won't go into now because I think they're probably less.
What's the objective of the Fanfare Alliance?
Well,
give us your purpose.
Two things really. First of all, to push back against large scale online ticket touting or ticket scalping, and then first of all in the UK we had some new consumer laws came in 2015. That provided some very light touch regulation around resale of tickets. So basically, if you resell a ticket on Viagogo or StubHub in the UK, you have to provide the seat number, the row, the block. You have to provide the original face value. You have to provide information around restrictions on the use of the ticket. And there's other consumer laws as well around the identity of traders. So if you're a business reselling a ticket, you have to make your identity known. So there was a whole bunch of laws, none of which were being complied with when we started the campaign. So that was one thing, was to get those laws enforced. And then the second thing, more importantly, I think long term, was to promote the idea of capped consumer-friendly resale. So mechanisms where if you buy a ticket, you can resell that ticket for the price you originally paid, and then another consumer can buy that ticket, and then the seat gets filled at a show.
And what is your cap that you are that is now law in England?
So the cap that we've been promoting, and actually this is now it's not yet law in the UK, but the government proposals have been published. So effectively, it's looking for consumers a 0% cap. So basically, you can sell a ticket for the price you originally paid, so the face value plus all the fees, back, and then someone else can then buy the ticket. Importantly, the government has also picked up on another of our recommendations that the platforms themselves should also have a cap on their service fee. And that cap should be around between 10 and 15%, we believe. So if you're buying with that resold ticket, you're not going to pay more than, say, 15% of the original cost price. Obviously, there's a cost.
1.5 or 5.0?
1.5.
Okay, great. Tom has a question, and then we'll let you get to your testimony. Sorry.
Did I hear you say it's not current yet law? It's something that's being considered. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, there's some. So last November, the government made a massive announcement saying, I mean, effectively, if you read their press release, you might be mistaken for thinking that they've already done this, but it basically says government bans ticket touting. So they've published their proposals, and then we now need primary legislation to be laid down. We have a King's Speech scheduled for the 13th of May. And that will hopefully provide the opportunity for that legislation to, be laid down. So if that happens, we're probably looking at 12 to 18 months before it's law, though.
So I interrupted you. Launch into your testimony. I apologize for interrupting you.
Thank you. So I'll kind of cut to the chase. So that was the kind of the foundation of Fanfare. We had, like I said, we had a lot of successes pre-pandemic, getting the law enforced. We had Ticketmaster, who previously, like they do in the US, have uncapped resale. So obviously ticket touts, ticket scalpers, listing tickets for huge profits. They closed those businesses down in the UK. So in the UK now, all of the primary ticketing companies offer capped resale. So that is, the model is there, it's in existence. We're now talking about tackling the black market and the exploitative secondary ticketing. So in late 2023, after the pandemic, we kind of relaunched our campaign around three main goals. One of which was new laws to cap ticket resale prices. Secondly, was to push Google in particular to stop promoting ticket touting businesses and to support venues and artists and help them sell tickets. And then thirdly was to push the music industry itself to up its game and to get better at marketing the capped resale services which they already launched. So to try and make them more appealing to consumers and get more awareness of what those services are. So the Labour Party, the UK Labour Party, seemed very receptive to this. The party leader Keir Starmer, before he became Prime Minister, made a big public speech adopting this idea. It was in the manifesto. And then just taking us up to where we were speaking just now, November last year, there was a big public letter which I helped organise, which artists like Radiohead, The Cure, Coldplay, Dua Lipa, and about 30 or 40 others all signed up to. And then the following week, government announced what they're planning to do. And that's basically four things. So ticket resale above face value will be illegal. And they're defining face value as the price of the ticket plus all the fees. Service fees charged by resale platforms will also be capped. Resale platforms, i.e. Viagogo, StubHub, will have a legal duty to monitor and enforce compliance with the cap. At the moment, these companies are very bad at monitoring anything on their platforms. And then individuals will also be banned from reselling more tickets than you're entitled to buy in the initial ticket sale. So if a show says you can only buy 4 tickets, well, you can only resell 4 tickets. You can't resell 400 tickets. So like I say, we're now in this process now where government have published its proposals. We're now just waiting for confirmation on when this law is going to get the parliamentary time to go through the legislative process. Obviously, we're pushing for that to happen in the King's Speech in May, but we'll have to wait and see how that goes. I think the things I just wanted to probably share with you quickly, having been in this area for about 10 years now, scarily enough, is that we've got I think some advantages over other countries, that we've got more transparency on what goes on these websites. So unlike folks in the US, we can see, we've got much better sight of where tickets are situated when they're listed on secondary platforms. So we can see seat numbers, we can see block row, etc. We can also get the identity of sellers as well. So I think that that's given us some quite good observations and insights in terms of what this market is and how it operates. So the first thing I'd probably say is that this is not a consumer to consumer market built on supply and demand. This is very much a business to consumer market. And when I say business, I mean scalper to consumer market. Our Competition and Markets Authority, the business regulator, they did a big investigation of Viagogo and StubHub in 2021. And from looking at the actual figures, and I'm just going to quote from their report, it said that Viagogo's largest resellers account for the majority of their sales, with those in the top decile accounting for more than 70% of platform GTV. So it's absolutely unequivocal that these businesses are absolutely crucial, is a top set of huge sellers. That's what makes their business run. It is not consumers. Most of the value comes from a small subset of large-scale sellers. Our own research at Fanfare always demonstrates this. So I do a lot of research for the media, for politicians, for regulators, again, to try and show what's happening on this market. Nearly all of the time, around 80% or 90% of tickets listed for shows, particularly high demand shows, will be listed by scalpers and touts, not by consumers. I did some research for the Daily Record newspaper in Scotland in October last year. That looked at over 5,000 tickets listed on Viagogo for events in Edinburgh and Scotland. The results of that research showed that all of the tickets being resold on Viagogo were for above face value. Only 2.5% were being listed by consumers, and 97.5% were being listed by touts. So you're talking about actors who are creating demand. The rules of supply and demand are kind of not, this isn't kind of some natural supply and demand. These are people who are entering the market, hoovering up tickets, and then creating their own demand. Of those 97.5 touts, only 15% were based in the UK, 60% were based in the US. Obviously, these are events in Scotland. We found one ticket tout based in Ohio who was listing 2,616 tickets for one event. And that was in a room with a 700 capacity. The name of that business was called Legit Tickets. We also found numerous tickets which are listed speculatively. And again, this is an endemic problem on the secondary sites, where you'll see tickets listed on Viagogo and the exact same seat numbers will be listed on Ticketmaster. So they're reselling tickets which have not yet even been sold in the first place. So
in cases, tickets that don't exist.
Tickets that don't exist. And again, like I say, because we've got more transparency in the UK, we can see these things a lot clearer, I think. Obviously, in the US, you don't have any of these details, so you're completely blind about what the tickets are and who's selling them. So my conclusion is that it's a totally unregulated black market. It's a totally insidious form of dynamic pricing. And if you scratch beneath the surface, you'll find a complex of offshore funds, Discord groups, underground financing. It's pretty murky stuff beneath it, and effectively turning culture into a commodity market. So that's the first thing in terms of what these are. In terms of the competition dynamic, again, if you listen to the pro scalper spokespeople, they'll mostly talk about supply and demand and the market price of tickets. And they kind of sound like economics professors, but the real dynamic in this market is actually between scalpers and the platforms. So the platforms want the biggest scalpers, and the scalpers want to use the platforms that are going to give them the best incentives and the best prices, etc. So that's actually the dynamic that's going on here. There are a couple of prosecutions in the UK, which I can send you details of, but I think that they illustrated very, very well how this market works. And that was basically two groups of touts who were arrested by National Trading Standards in the UK. They went through to prosecution, they went to prison, facing forfeiture orders. In both cases, the individuals were basically involved in acts of mass fraud in terms of how they obtained ticket using multiple identities, multiple credit cards, specialized software. So all obtained tens of thousands of tickets, which they resold for millions of pounds. The platforms themselves are in collusion with this. If you're being generous, you could say that they just don't ask any questions. So if someone's listing, tens of thousands of tickets, they're not questioning where those people got those tickets from and if they were acquired lawfully. But obviously they also profit from this as well. And actually the BBC reports on one of these cases, which is involving a guy called Peter Hunter. They estimated that just from his ticket sales alone, the four main platforms that were operating then would have made around 8.8 million in service fees. So there's absolutely organized crime at the heart of this, and this is what the platforms are benefiting from.
Adam, thank you. We have a question here, and I think we have you sent your testimony to our committee assistant, Kiara? And if not, would you be kind enough to do so?
I will definitely do that. It was hastily written this morning, so I will definitely do that later.
Well, thank you. And Thomas has a question for you.
Adam, I appreciate your testimony. I agree with you that this is an insidious market with dynamic speculative pricing that just does not feel right. So I'm fully on board with a lot of the good things in this bill. Where my pause, what I'm trying to wrestle with is this price cap. So I'd just like to ask mechanically, how do you anticipate this bill that's under consideration in the United Kingdom to really be translated into action? So if I bought a $1,000 ticket to see Taylor Swift and I paid $200 in service fees, that's $1,200. And then the first resale, I think you said you're contemplating allowing a 15% charge on that. So would I then, if that gets resold again, so that'd be $1,200 plus another $180. Now we're at $1,380 paid in fees so far in the second resale. Would I then compound that and I could do 15% on that $1,380, and the platforms will be required to just monitor how many times the tickets get resold? Or do you see another mechanism where I, as the original purchaser, will just have to eat that 15% and take less money than what I actually paid because I have to pay for the transfer of the tickets on the platform?
So the way I mean effectively what the cap is going to do in the UK is kind of legislate how the market's currently working. So in the UK, capped retail is now standard. So if you buy a ticket through Ticketmaster, for instance, you can resell that ticket for what you bought it for or less. And then Ticketmaster, when you resell, they'll charge to cover their service. There's a bunch of other services which will actually charge a smaller service fee. So there is some competition dynamic in the market. But again, it's the market dynamics though are very, very different to the secondary market. It is genuine fan to fan. It's not business to fan. Obviously appreciate though, at some of those, I mean, you mentioning say a Taylor Swift ticket, obviously at large stadium events, ticket prices in primary can be really, really high. So again, I think that's something where again, the market itself is probably going to have to evolve, and there'd be, caps on those resale fees. So again, maybe it shouldn't be 15%, maybe it should be 15% or no more than,
Right.
Does the United Kingdom mandate that event venues take returns of tickets up to 7 days prior to the event? Is there any regulation on those fronts?
That's a good question.
No, I mean that's not really standard practice in music. I mean, it is at certain venues, maybe more theatre and arts venues. But I think in terms of consumer law, I think as long as you're giving, the basic advice we've had from regulators is as long as you're giving consumers a fair deal in the first place, in terms of providing them with all the transparency and information they need on fees, etc., that there just should be some mechanism. So it's either resale or refund. I don't think refund is standard in music, whereas it might be in certain other arts.
Adam, we're going to have to, we'll have follow-up, and it would be great if you're able to stick around for the rest of the conversation, because we have some very interesting takes that may be slightly different. We'd love your input if you're able to stick around.
No problem, no problem.
But at the moment, we're going to shift to Eric Mallett, the Executive Director of the Paramount in Rutland. So in real time, Eric, welcome.
Hi, good morning. How is everyone?
We are well. We're well. It's good to see you.
Good to be here. So can everybody hear me okay? I want to make sure. I know sometimes these
Yes,
Zoom calls can be
you
challenging.
understand.
Okay, great. It's not lost on me. The first two fellas talking today are lacking hair up top. So Adam, good to see you. Senator Weeks, thank you for also sharing in the same haircut. So as was shared, my name is Eric Mallett, and I do serve as the executive director here at the Paramount Theater in Rutland, and I am here today in absolute strong support of H512. This is not a minor issue. Resale websites are designed to look like legitimate venue sites, and extreme ticket price inflation are actively preying on Vermonters every day who simply want to experience live events. These resale websites are threatening Vermont's local economies, as well as the health of arts organizations like the one that I run. So venues like the Paramount, we're a lot more than just big windowless boxes with lots of chairs. We're economic engines for our communities, often very singular in our respective regions. There's not a lot of folks that do what I do within a reasonable driving distance of the front doors of the theater. The Paramount generates almost $3 million a year and growing in regional economic impact every year. Overall, the creative economy contributes an estimated $1.2 billion to the Vermont economy annually. All this matters because every show brings people into downtowns. They support restaurants, shops, hotels, and all sorts of other local businesses. The ripple effect of our events helps sustain jobs, attract visitors, and strengthen the overall vibrancy of our cities and towns. Short to say, Vermont's art venues are a vital part of the state's economy, not just its culture. But these deceptive ticketing practices are threatening that ecosystem in real time every day. When scalpers exploit fans with inflated prices or misleading websites, this is reducing attendance. It's draining money that should be staying in Vermont, and it's weakening the economic benefits that venues like the Paramount and my colleagues across the state create. These are dollars that could support local businesses. Instead, they flow out of state to anonymous resellers, and this erodes both the cultural and financial foundation of our communities. I could go on for days sharing with you heartbreaking examples. Grandparents that were duped into paying 3 to 5 times the face value to see their grandchild perform in the Nutcracker. These are families really just trying to celebrate important moments, and they're being taken advantage of because this market is not regulated. There's no protection for these people. Our box office hears these terrible stories every single day, and I promise this committee that is not hyperbole. This loss of trust I'm sharing with you doesn't just hurt the ticket buyer in that moment. If an organization like the one I represent appears to be out of touch with the realities of our communities, with thanks to these wildly overpriced tickets being marketed by scalpers, it's very simple. Donors walk away. Donors stop donating. I operate a mission-driven organization. I have a responsibility to make sure that the organization that I oversee has its doors open to as many people in our community as possible. As we lose these donors because they feel we are out of touch because of the overpriced ticketing, that mission becomes more and more difficult to achieve. I want to be clear. Our patrons want this bill to pass. H512, it protects Vermonters by keeping tickets fairly priced and accessible, like we've been talking about, but it takes away the profit incentive from the predatory resellers. And at the same time, as I was just describing to you, it helps safeguard the long-term sustainability. I want to talk about the price cap because there's been a lot of discussion about this. In my opinion, a 10% cap on resale pricing is the most straightforward, practical solution. It still allows patrons to sell tickets when plans change, But importantly, it removes the financial incentives for bad actors to exploit fans and continue to manipulate the market. There's no other way. They're not doing this because they want to see which reseller can sell the most tickets next month. They're doing this to generate as much revenue as possible. If we can take them out of the knees by reducing what that margin can be, they will stop. Live events are a lifeline for Vermont communities. I don't think there's a single person in this room that would disagree with that. Venues like the Paramount, we're at the heart of that system. If we don't act, we are normalizing exploitation. We're hurting local businesses and we're weakening the cultural and economic fabric of our state. Never mind the fact that we're undermining the trust that audiences and donors rely on when supporting the work that folks on my team here do every day. H512 is a measured, essential step to protect audiences, support local economies, as I mentioned, and safeguard the future of some of Vermont's most treasured organizations.
Thank you, Eric. I'm going to ask you, and then Tom has a question, I know.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you, what are you at the Paramount doing to promote your legitimate ticket buying website? What are you doing to drive people and make it clear that you are the trusted source for the primary ticket?
So the best we can do is communicate. So we talk with our buyers twice a week through a weekly email blast. Our marketing all is very clear that you have to look for what we refer to as the Heritage Family Credit Union online box office. So we communicate, I think, as effectively as possible, but the noise that we have to break through is just so vast. I've heard conversations being shared about, you should put language on your website saying this is where you need to go to buy tickets. I appreciate the generosity or the simplicity of that, but if you're already on the website that sells the tickets, me telling you you're on the right website is sort of, I don't know, it's like putting your blinker on after you've already taken the exit. So our staff has been given the task of again communicating as regularly as possible that the only place you go is ParamountVT.org.
And do you not also have as a backup calling the box office? I mean, quite honestly, for me, the best defense on this is direct communication with the box office. So if people have questions, they should be calling the box office and saying, is this really the price of this ticket? I mean, if they get scammed. So Tom has a question too.
Do you use staggered ticket releases with demand adjusted pricing based on what you see in the first wave? Do you have house seats and allocation amounts, or do you release all tickets for sale at a standard price for every event, every time at the same time?
The latter.
Okay.
Yeah.
We do not participate in dynamic pricing.
And another concern I have with the price cap is I would expect the market to react that if a third-party reseller starts to bundle tickets with, say, a bottle of water or a limousine ride or something else, then they can start to circumvent any cap we put into place and price it however they so desire. Is that something that's been contemplated in your advocacy or discussions on this bill?
That's the first I've heard of it, but I would imagine that those that are looking for a night out with a limo and dinner are much smaller in total than just a couple looking to go buy tickets to a show. So I hear you, and I think that those are some loopholes.
Sure.
But I know when my wife and I go to the theater, we're not looking to get in a limo. I would expect that would sell for a premium.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Eric, thank you. If you stick around, and would you be kind enough to send your testimony to Kiara and to me, that would be great, and we'll get it up on the website. Really, if you would stick around, if you and Adam may have input on the rest of our witnesses. But I think given our time frame, I'm going to shift to Joe Freeman. Joe, are you there at SeatGeek?
Good morning, Madam Chair. Thank you so much, Senator
Morning.
Clarkson and
You're
members.
joining us from California.
Southern California. I need to let Senator Hinsdale know my son was a Santa Monica Viking right about the same time she graduated. That's a subject for another day.
Okay. Well,
I would say go Vikings, but I never liked our mascot. I think they finally changed it.
yeah, it is a little odd to have the Vikings on the west side of the America.
Wrong ocean. Agreed.
But I love my ice ball.
Yeah, God forbid. Joe, welcome. If you'd introduce yourself and go for it.
Thank you, Senator. Joe Freeman, Vice President of Government Relations at SeatGeek. There's so much I want to say, and I know time is limited. I really want to stress what a different lane SeatGeek occupies in this ecosystem. I have profound respect for Mr. Webb, Mr. Mallett. I agree with so much, Eric, if I may, we're both handsome bald men, of what you just have to say about your theater being a local icon. I tried to get to a show a few weeks ago. I didn't get to the state in time. It was the Lyle Lovett show. I'm so sorry I missed it. I hear from friends in the community just how beloved a theater it is. We only want you to flourish. 2 seconds on SeatGeek's background. We started 3 college roommates down the I-89 and across the Connecticut River from where you folks are sitting today, started this company in around 2009 in their college dorm. Started off as an aggregator like Kayak, then became a resale platform akin to a StubHub. And then about 10, 11 years ago, we had the brilliant idea to take on Ticketmaster directly in ticketing. The strategy being, let's align as directly as possible with rights holders and give consumers more choice and get more people going to live. It's as simple as that. Are trying to take on Ticketmaster directly. We've had yay much success. I'll talk about it in a sec. It's also been an avalanche of antitrust headaches. Our CEO testified for a full day in federal court 2 weeks ago in the antitrust case going on against Live Nation Ticketmaster. I know we're not here to talk about that. A big shout out to General Clark's office for being one of the remaining state attorneys general in that case. It's going to, assuming a jury verdict comes in, as most people hope, it's going to make the live entertainment ecosystem in the United States so much more competitive and consumer friendly. In terms of aligning with rights holders, we focus on larger arenas and stadiums, quite frankly. We ticket about 6 NFL teams, 3 NBA teams, 2 NHL teams. We do really well in soccer. There's no concert threat there coming from Live Nation. It's a separate conversation. Why do I mention all those things, and why do I?
Lots of Broadway and off-Broadway and off-Broadway tickets.
We used to have a primary relationship with one of the leading houses on Broadway, not
Yeah.
anymore, but
It's
just
over. Right.
for business reasons mutually agreed upon, we stepped away from that. But we're based in New York City. We're a big part of that ecosystem as well. Thanks for the call out. The reason I bring up our aligning with rights holders, we actually have a footprint in the Vermont live entertainment ecosystem. We are proud to be the verified ticket partner of the University of Vermont. And I've had a couple of really enlightening, a couple of very friendly, enlightening conversations with Jeff Schulman, the AD at the university. I'm in no way here to talk on behalf of the university. We actually don't have a signed contract with the university because we have a signed contract with a national ticketing services provider, a company called Paciolan, that's a leading ticketing services provider for intercollegiate sports. Through them, Paciolan is able to offer its clients like UVM a resale option in which the back end is integrated and local fans, local students, and alum have a viable, safe resale option to get rid of or buy tickets, whatever the choice may be, leading up to events. So it's only been a 2-year partnership so far. We feel deeply invested in the community. And frankly, we've sold a heck of a lot more tickets than one would imagine for a single university in a smaller, predominantly rural state. So we're thrilled to have that indirect presence. It's also taught us a lot about compliance, back-end interoperability, and what it means to be able to give consumers the most transparent, fan-friendly ticketing choice. We see so much that we support in H512. We have a fundamental philosophical, I would respectfully submit, principled disagreement with Mr. Webb, with Mr. Mallett on the issue of price controls, of resale price caps. In our experience, they just don't work. I've attached to my written testimony just a quick collection of articles from the UK, from other jurisdictions, where for the type of business we focus on, the amount of fraud when high demand events do not have safe resale platforms such as SeatGeek is pretty astronomical. We're not in resale in the UK, parenthetically. We do ticket on a white label basis of close to half of the UK Premier League. We spend enough time trying to fight for our existence against Ticketmaster, quite frankly, that it's just not something we've been able to look at or invest in. I have a ton of respect for what Mr. Webb is saying and trying to accomplish because it's about protecting fans and helping the industry to flourish. So I am hopeful that we can get through the conversation today without too much name calling or pejorative, sometimes offensive terminology. But
Not so much here in this state. Just one question before we go to Keisha. Keisha has a question.
Please.
What percent of your business now at SeatGeek is resale and what percent is primary ticket sale?
It's a great question. I don't know if we publicly state that. I can tell you roughly it's probably, please don't hold me to this, it might be as much as 50-50. I don't have that exact number and I don't think it's something we report, but it's somewhere in that range is my understanding.
Thanks, Keisha.
So I just Googled UVM athletic tickets just
Yep.
to see like what happens, right? Because I think this is where most people start to go off the rails, including myself. Like, where do I actually get the ticket? And, you know, to everyone's credit, uvmathletics.com is the first thing that shows up, and it has a drop down that takes up most of the screen for where to get basketball or student tickets, women's basket. Like, it looks like they put their the most popular search functions at the top. The second two websites are Pacquiao.
Right.
So I haven't clicked yet. What I'm seeing is promising, even though it says uvmathletics.evenue.net. The contact information is still the UVM ticket office and the UVM ticket email.
Absolutely. Yep.
I'll just say, like, I know athletic events, especially at UVM, we're not love my alma mater, but we're not, UConn, UCLA.
Not yet.
We're getting there with soccer. I mean, we're getting
Your soccer team is, but go
My
ahead.
mother accepted UVM into her heart in 2025 when they beat Syracuse. But
2005.
what did I say?
Sure.
Oh yeah, 2005. Yeah.
Okay.
But this, without looking deeper, I would think this is the kind of best practice we're looking for, where the websites that even are legitimized are not subsuming or eclipsing the original venue's website. They're pointing people back to the website when there's tickets available. They're not engaging in the same deceptive practices that concern us about the fully illegal and illicit market, right? Like what I don't like personally is struggling to even find the right website when I keep tickets in my own state, knowing full well that it's like, I have to remember flintix.org or something so I don't get sent somewhere else, no matter how savvy I am at navigating the internet.
I think those are perfectly valid points that I emphatically embrace. No consumer, I think we should all agree, should ever buy a ticket thinking they're buying from the venue box office when they're not, period, full stop.
Right.
I would argue that in any instance where that is happening, whether it's through a deceptive URL or other misleading marketing practices, that's already a violation of consumer protection laws. It's a misleading and deceptive business practice. Thankfully, SeatGeek has established a name for itself, and we've built our business on not mimicking the box office. To the exact contrary, we're trying to align with rights holders. I had hoped, Senator Hinsdale, that if the sports season is largely over at the university, what I had hoped to show, and I got onto the site too late, was to show a purchase flow of how you would land on SeatGeek through the university authorized channels. But the other point I really wanted to make, frankly, is the issue of compliance in the event of a price cap. A business like ours that's trying to do resale right. Right now, we don't even have access to what the original or face price is for the university because we have that back-end integration. It probably could be developed. But I'll tell you this, we're looking at a scenario where, frankly, the company that's looking to invest in the ecosystem and align with rights holders might be the only one that can actually comply with the law. In so many other cases, we simply have no way of knowing what the initial face price is. I didn't mean to pick on the Paramount because, frankly, I really want to get there one day, but I'm a Lyle Lovett fanatic. I'm a strange guy that way. He played at the Paramount, I think, on March 7th. I wish I could have gotten to Montpelier and to Rutland that day, but when I fooling around online, I came to the Paramount site. I think I put some screenshots in my submitted materials. And the Paramount Theater, to its immense credit, first had a very visible page about resale notices and who Mr. Mallett thinks consumers should be buying from, entirely within his purview, best practice webpage. At the same time, though, that show was sold out. And at the bottom, and I highlighted this in my paperwork, I think at the bottom it said something like, no more tickets available at the box office. There was no indication of what the pricing was. A site like ours, assuming we were trying to do calisthenics and leap through hoops and be strictly compliant with, whatever law one day is enacted or not, no way of knowing what the face price is, let alone the need for a back-end integration. I don't mean to be, the last thing I want is to upset you, Eric. We're trying to align as much as possible. I put in the screenshot. This is one consumer's experience. But I also want to add, and I included the screenshot, while there was nothing left at the box office on the day of the show, because it's a great act, I'm sure they were amazing, I found a ticket on SeatGeek. And it was for, I think, $200. I have the screenshot of my materials. I don't understand why, in that very, very common occurrence, where someone is looking for a ticket last minute that isn't at the box office, whether the event sold out, whether someone's motivated to get a front row ticket or a last row ticket, why we should be looking to restrict consumer choice.
Right, Thomas, then we're going to move to Jason, and then we'll.
Thank
Joe, I
you.
very much appreciate your testimony, and I'm increasingly in agreement with a lot of what you said. And so what I'd like to just validate, my impression is if we put this price cap into place, and I have 2 tickets, I bought for my 16-year-old, which turned 16, 2 very expensive tickets to Katy Perry in Boston. And I've had those tickets and I own those tickets, but if I couldn't use them for whatever reason, and I wanted to resell them, but I couldn't get more than what I paid, but it's sold out, and I know there's people out there that love Katy Perry, I'm going to go to another way. I'm going to go on Craigslist. I'm going to put mention it to other people, maybe advertise, and I'm going to want to sell it at a premium because that's just my market incentive. And if I'm doing it, there's going to be others doing it. So I see a lot of your articles talking about how these black markets come online when there's price caps in play. My question to you is, where can I point to existing jurisdiction, provinces, states that had a price cap and then repealed them because of just this effect? I see all these articles, but how could I validate that that's the likely outcome based on previous experience in other jurisdictions?
If you try
that of Adam too, because I think we have some international data on that for in the international market.
So Senator Chittenden, I have a really specific direct answer. If you travel a little further down the interstate, you're going to get to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And in November of 24, I believe, they rescinded their 100-plus-year-old resale price cap law. Period, full stop. I spent a lot of time in Boston on that, had a lot of conversations with Attorney General Campbell's office in Boston, and compliance was virtually impossible. Enforcement resources were seen as being better dedicated to other areas. And the experience was, frankly, that in the vast, vast, vast majority of instances that did not involve a misleading or deceptive business practice, it simply wasn't a law in which folks felt violated. We have a deal with Major League Baseball. So Red Sox season ticket holders, as with the university, as with the university. So Red Sox season ticket holders.
Finish your thought, and then we're going to need to shift.
I apologize. Red Sox season ticket holders, like a UVM season ticket holder, can automatically resolve through a back-end integration to our site to sell a ticket in a transparent, secure, immediately verified manner. That's what we've bet our business on. That's our hope for the future. We really appreciate your attention to these issues.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. If you stick around, we'll open it up. But I'm going to turn to Jason Webb. To have 2 webs at one point is amusing. And we have webs here in Vermont, so it's interesting to see all these webs all over the place. Jason, are you joining us from California also?
Yes, I'm
Great.
joining from California, despite the accent. Chairperson and members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to testify. So on the other web, on this call, my name's Jason Webb. I'm speaking on behalf of Tixel, which is a global fan-to-fan ticket exchange that partners closely with promoters, venues, and artists to keep ticket trading fair, transparent, and safe. Tixel exists to help fans attend more shows and to help artists and venues build healthier and more sustainable live ecosystems. Since I co-founded Tixel 8 years ago in Australia, we've operated a ticket resale marketplace with built-in consumer protections that include a strict price cap tied to the original purchase price, proactive blocks on speculative tickets, and technology and partnerships designed to align our incentives with the people who create and host live events, not against them. Importantly, this is not theoretical for us. Our entire business operates successfully with a price cap of 110% of the original purchase price in place. We are a commercial, scalable marketplace that facilitates millions of dollars each year in ticket resale across several continents under these conditions. We process hundreds of thousands of ticket exchanges each year within a price capped environment, and the marketplace is growing. The idea that price caps make resale markets unworkable is not, it's not consistent with our experience. We actually see the opposite. Sorry, was there a question?
No, I think at that price, at 110%, if people can trust that that's the top resale value that we've sold at, I think that develops trust that you won't be completely scammed into paying 10 times what the original ticket price is. I mean, if you know that it's capped that amount.
Yeah, well, that's the idea behind the business and the genesis of the business.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what we've seen is that price caps create healthier and more trusted marketplaces that real fans are more willing to use. For the last 12 months, the business is originally from Australia. I'm in Los Angeles, and for the last 12 months, we've partnered with one of your local venues in Vermont, a venue called Higher Ground, as their official fan exchange partner.
Right.
On both shows at the venue itself and the Outdoor Summer Series at the Shelburne Museum. And together, we actually enforce a 15% price cap right now on those shows. And that allows the transaction to account for fees, and so the seller can recover their money. And we've successfully enabled the transfer of thousands of tickets, and we've made sure that fans get into that venue safely. The bill before you is a pragmatic, pro-fan, pro-artist framework, and it combines the several provisions that we've seen work together. So there's the price cap of 110% of the purchase price, the ban on the speculative listings, the protections against deceptive websites, and the misuse of intellectual properties. And then really importantly, and perhaps, Joe, this is why the Boston bill didn't work and was repealed. This bill includes enforcement through existing unfair trade practices laws. And we strongly support all these measures. In particular, I'd like to focus on the price cap because a philosophical concern about the government setting prices can sometimes exist. But in practice, governments already set guardrails on pricing in many markets where consumer harm is likely, from anti-gouging laws during emergencies to regulations in utilities, insurance, and financial services. And it's important to say that tickets are actually a really unique product. They are access rights to an event, and they're often sold in very limited quantities, and they're highly vulnerable to artificial scarcity and speculative behavior. Without guardrails, they actually become financial instruments rather than access to live experiences that they're supposed to be. And so the role of the price cap in this context is not to control a market broadly, but to prevent clearly identifiable consumer harm from taking place. A modest cap, like 10% above the original purchase price, does not distort the market. It simply ensures that resale serves its original purpose, which is helping fans who can no longer attend transfer their tickets to other fans at around about the cost that they paid for them or lower, rather than enabling large-scale profit extraction. From an operational perspective, a 10% cap works because it aligns incentives across the entire market. It allows sellers or the original ticket holders to recover their costs, including all the fees, without creating a meaningful profit motive that attracts large-scale speculative behavior. At the same time, it keeps prices within reach for genuine fans, which maintains demand on the platform. And that balance is critical because if the cap is too low, then the sellers disengage. And if it's too high, the market attracts professional resellers and prices quickly escalate. At 110% of face value, we consistently see strong participation from real fans on both sides of the transaction without the distortions that lead to scalping. We see this clearly in our own data, and the vast majority of tickets resold on Tixel are listed within because of normal life circumstances such as conflicts in people's schedule or illness. Buyers are typically fans who missed out on the initial sale, and when prices are capped, more fans can afford to attend more shows. That translates to stronger outcomes for venues, artists, and local economies. And so the concrete example is when a $50 ticket is resold for $500, one fan goes to one show. If that same ticket is resold for $55, that fan can go to multiple shows. And Eric spoke about the wider economic impact of these shows. And if you can get 10 times the attendance by eliminating the lift in ticket prices, then that's a great thing for the local economy. So that means more nights out, more spending at venues, and more support for local culture. And so the price caps actually redistribute demand back into the live ecosystem rather than concentrating it in the hands of just a few professional resellers. Now, in terms of seeing price caps work effectively in multiple jurisdictions, across Australia, where our business is founded, 10% price caps are widely enforced. And despite this, resale remains active and fraud is extremely low, and fans trust the system. And these aren't just our platform policies, they are government legislated protections in major states in Australia, such as New South Wales, Western Australia, South Australia, and then for major events in Victoria. So that covers over 80% of the Australian population. One example is that during the Australian leg of Taylor Swift's Eras Tour, which is basically the largest tour of the decade and the most popular event of all time, and everyone's referencing, the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission ScamWatch only received 273 reports relating to falsely advertised tickets, despite total attendance exceeding 600,000 across the 7 shows, and there were also millions of people wanting to attend this show. This small number of reports illustrates that strong resale regulation can coexist with very low levels of fraud, even in the most extremely high demand event conceivable. For lower demand events, fraud is close to non-existent, which is why very little hard data is published on this matter. Adam spoke at length about the UK and how they are in the process of introducing nationwide bans on the markup of resale tickets. Tixel has been operational in the UK for over 5 years, and we're experiencing steady growth in the region under the price cap model alongside other marketplaces. From our perspective as an operator, the combination of a price cap, speculative ticket ban, and the clear enforcement is what makes this system work. And removing the price cap weakens that framework and enables the very behaviors the rest of the bill is designed to prevent. So what does success look like for Vermont? More fans accessing live events at fair prices, price cap that protects fans without disrupting legitimate resale activity, a resale market that is safe, transparent, and trusted, stronger local venues and cultural ecosystem, and clear rules that reward responsible operators and deter bad actors. Tixel supports this bill because we already operate within these parameters every day. We know that 110% cap is workable, sustainable, and beneficial to fans, artists, and venues alike. On behalf of Tixel, I urge you to pass this legislation and establish a fair, balanced resale market in Vermont, where tickets remain what they are meant to be, access to live experience, and not vehicles for excessive profit. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Grayson. Wow, it's great to have Commonwealth so well represented here in this today in Vermont. Okay, we have this great group of people, great resources. Thank you all. Questions. We have people attending from the UK, from Australia via LA and Rutland. Questions. I have a question, which I'm going to apologize for in advance, which is, I understand how you might access resale tickets and how that active market could exist. How do you access the tickets, the original tickets, which I'm a little puzzled by? Are there agreements, the SeatGeek, for example, when you used to sell, and I know that you're not doing that as much in New York, but as a former theater producer, did the box office, did your agreement give, let you were sold X number of tickets that you could then sell? How do you have access to the original tickets? How are you able to sell original tickets to a show, to any show?
Sure. A big part of SeatGeek's business is having developed what we think is a best-in-class ticketing services software solution. So we install our solution in the box office. We are the engine of whether it's the Broadway Theater, whether it's the Dallas Cowboys, Cleveland Cavaliers. We power the venue box office in a way, directly head on with Ticketmaster. All the different venues anywhere have some kind of ticketing software system that they use. Some are older, a little more archaic. Some are incredibly technologically sophisticated. We like to think ours is a lot closer to the latter, but you're installing, a software, a pretty complex ticketing system into the building to power their ticket sales.
So you're embedding that by agreement, by contract with the producer of those shows and with the box office and the owner of that theater.
Correct.
At venue.
Yes.
So all of the, okay. Thanks. The resale market. How do you advertise to consumers who, like Tom, may have bought a ticket and want to resell it, but of course don't want to gouge anyone else with the resale? How do you promote yourself? How do you promote yourself to the resale market?
Well, it depends whether we're the primary ticketing service provider or not. Typically, in an instance, say, let me give an example of the university. Even though we're not the primary ticketing services provider there, we do have the back-end integration resale agreement with their primary ticketing company. Had it still been the sports season, I could have easily navigated to a SeatGeek link on the university's website that would have been, labeled to fans or to ticket holders as, the university authorized channel to do resale. We'll also do, standard web advertising, but we've built this company over time by developing a reputation for being a safe, secure place to do business. So, frankly, one of the reasons we invest so heavily on the primary side is, if we're, for example, the primary ticketing company for the Dallas Cowboys, whatever you're doing in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, you've got some brand association with us being a reliable, trustworthy partner.
Great, Eric. And then we have.
Yeah, just to just address a couple of points that are being made here. We're talking quite a bit about the idea of these more authorized relationships, like Mr. Freeman is talking about these relationships with UVM, I believe was one of the examples he gave, and some Broadway theaters. I think that is one conversation. The conversation that I would like to be having more and more loudly is the idea that these are individual actors that are using these platforms. Those are the struggles that I think my organization and ones like mine are experiencing with the current growth in the secondary marketplace. It's not the official relationships that Mr. Freeman is talking that SeatGeek has with these venues. It's the platform that they have created that allows folks to sell these tickets at exorbitant prices. It's the platform that I struggle with. And while I have the floor, may I just say a couple more things? I'll be careful with time.
Sure. We are pretty much out of time. So a couple more things, and then
okay. So
if we need to ask you all to come back at another point.
So real quickly, thank you for that. Real quickly, just so the committee understands, I understand, I can appreciate the romanticism behind the idea that how great it is somebody gets to go in and buy a ticket after the show is sold out, as the example is that the gentleman from SeatGeek gave. That show is listed as sold out because the secondary market has swooped in and set on a bunch of tickets and is now selling them for 3 to 4 times the price. That $200 example that was shared was an $85 ticket. So I take exception to the idea that the secondary marketplace is helping folks get to the theater. It's doing the exact opposite. It's a hindrance. And also, we haven't touched on this a lot, but I think it's important that we do say it out loud at least once. This idea of the speculative market. I took the liberty of going on, and I'm sorry, Joe, I don't mean to pick on you, but I went on to SeatGeek. Right now, there are dozens of tickets that are listed as available for purchase on your platform. The platform that I hear is really sort of cutting edge in terms of fraud prevention. There are tickets listed for sale on the platform for 2 to 3 times the face value. I went into our system and looked. The tickets that are listed for sale have not been sold from our system yet. So if these major reseller outlets are unable to prevent that sort of speculative, fraudulent, heavy behavior, I have no faith that they really are here to protect the consumers.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you all. This was terrific. And we may reach out to you for further testimony, but this has really been extremely helpful. Thank you very much as we navigate the shoals of H512 and shoals and opportunities. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we're going to pivot to our
Miscellaneous
alcohol bill, our liquor and lottery bill, our liquor and miscellaneous bill. So thank you very much. We shall see you anon. And Tucker, Lucy, why don't you come take the seat? And we're going to pivot to 921. Our miscellaneous alcoholic beverage bill.
What are you doing, Louise?
Like also the bill.
The booth bill. Because I think, do you have any lottery aspects to it, or is it just all alcohol? Sorry. It's just for breakfast.
So hi.
It's all liquor.
It's all alcohol.
Okay.
Yep.
Great. Welcome, Lucy. It's a big shift. We're here from tickets to, well, actually, it's a touch. Anyway, welcome.
For the record, Representative Lucy Boyden, Human Jim Waterville, Memorial 3, from the House Government Operations and Military Affairs Committee. And here to talk about H921, which relates to alcoholic beverages and proposes to amend various provisions of Title VII relating to the Board of Liquor and Lottery for class licenses, manufacturers of alcoholic beverages, special events permits, and special venue serving permits. I know you're gonna have a walkthrough with Tucker, but then I might highlight a couple sections of the bill.
Well, give us the overall purpose of the bill, what does it do, if it's a miscellaneous bill, and the sections that you think are most important.
Totally. This bill comes as a result of some off-session conversations between legislators and the Department of Liquor and Lottery, the Brewers Association, the Great Vermont Council, and the Distilled Spirits Council of Vermont, to support the industry and also support public safety.
And I'm aware of the offer and wine, so I'm interested in the rest of it. Right.
So I'll jump around a little bit and just highlight a couple sections. I'll start with section 2, which specifies the aggregate total for amounts a fourth class licensee may distribute for consumption at a tasting room and retail shop. It also increases the number of fourth class license locations operated by a licensee that can sell products from other licensed manufacturers to not more than 10. And these locations can sell by the unopened container or distribute by the glass, malt beverages, minus or ready to drink spirits beverages produced by other licensed manufacturers, and not more than 7 licensed manufacturers of spirits or qualified wines.
Yeah.
So I know we should, we'll get into Tucker. We'll get into with Tucker and Wendy, like fourth class licenses, who's that, what do we accomplish?
Right.
But can you just tell us, for the record, like who you heard from and any concerns that were raised or not?
And remind us what the fourth class, I think fourth class.
That would be nice, but I always hate the numbers.
Right.
Yeah, so the licenses do get a little tricky, but our fourth class license locations are but I believe, correct me if I'm wrong if I'm getting this wrong, but are retail locations that also offer tastings, specifically around spirits.
But they, so what other licenses do they have?
Well, that, I'll let the.
So, right, yeah, I mean,
Let's
it's just,
ask Tucker
yeah,
those questions.
that's one of those ones that's like gotta be covered with a better
So
license.
section 2 is a priority. What else is a priority?
Section 6, we are looking to include Vinous beverage licensed manufacturers and being able to operate up to 2 licensed establishments that are located at the licensed manufacturing facility or on property that is owned by the licensee and is contiguous with a parcel of land on which the licensed manufacturing facility is located. So this would bring parity to our malt manufacturing.
So that's aligning, sort of making similar opportunities for
Yeah, so
Different
malt folks already have this
Right.
allowance. This would also grant it finance. And then within the section, we also allow a licensed manufacturer of malt beverages to distribute an annual total of not more than 3,000 barrels of malt beverages directly to holders of first or second class licenses. So self-distribution.
Is that also in section 6?
Yes, subsection G.
Got it. Oh, right. Okay.
And then within section 7, we're looking 2 years into the future and sunsetting section G of section 6, the direct distribution. This is more of a government accountability measure for the legislature to check back in within 2 years, see how everything's going. Do we need to adjust the barrel number? Do we need to make any adjustments at all? And sections 9 and 10, similar to what I just commented on, this removes the 2026 sunset of the inclusion of retail establishments within the special venue serving permit from Act 156 of 2024. So we heard from the Department of Liquor and Lottery, they reported no safety concerns of expanding this permit, the special venue serving permit. So looking to keep that within statute.
Got it.
The vote out of committee was 11-0-0. It passed to the floor on second and third reading on a voice vote, unanimous support. And I'm happy to let you know, run through the witness list.
That's okay. We'll get it from,
Yeah.
what's the name of your committee assistant?
Nick.
Nick, that's right. Nick. We'll get it, Nick. Thank you very much. Terrific. Tia. Okay, Tucker. You want to report from there? You want to come to the end of the table and walk us through this?
I'll come to the end of the table against.
Oh, sorry.
Faster escape.
Yeah, sorry. I'm there. Welcome, Tucker. I just want to remind everybody, we're lucky to have Tucker today. Today is Tucker's last day before his parental leave.
You have the last hour.
And we have the last hour. Actually,
You look like you're really slouched towards the
No, it is, yeah, and we have a very modest token of our deep esteem and expectation of this
It's,
charming addition to your threesome.
it looks like a bundle for the bundle.
It's the right size for a
They do.
small baby.
No, baby has not arrived. It's
That's tomorrow.
Good morning. For the record,
Welcome.
Tucker Anderson, Legislative Counsel, you should have in front of you H921. I'll be working off of the as passed by House version. I will give you an overview of the sections of the bill and where appropriate, some background in the context of the law and Title VII, where these amendments are taking place. And if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer those that I can in the seat, but also provide any research that you need to help contextualize what you're dealing with in the context of alcoholic beverage regulation. And I'd also note that the secondary attorney who will be covering during my leave is in the back of the room, Rick Sagel.
So Rick is going to be covering finest of all things alcohol related and lottery related.
That's right.
Great. Glad he's got my back. Great.
See, I'm on the back.
Yeah, I know. We have both.
Behind you.
Great.
We will start on section 1 under the radar assistant setting for the term length for members of the Board of Liquor and Lottery. This amends 7 VSA section 101 to change the term for members of the Board of Liquor and Lottery from 3 years.
And this was proposed by Vidal.
This was proposed, I believe, by the Department of Liquor and Lottery and was
Yeah,
contained.
okay,
in
so we'll hear from the
separate bill
commissioner about why they want it.
Introduced, I
Right.
believe, by Representative. Under the reader assistance heading for fourth class licenses, serving and other license limits, this amends 7 VSA section 224 related to fourth class licenses. And I'll start with just a description of what this license is and who holds it. Senator Ron Hinsdale brought up that she thought that this is one of those licenses where you have to have another license. That is correct. Fourth class licenses are issued to manufacturers and rectifiers that are licensed in the state of Vermont. And these are either on premises or satellite tasting locations. There's a limit on the number of licenses that can be issued to an individual manufacturer. There are also serving limitations for how much of a particular type of alcoholic beverage can be served at a fourth class license location. It is included in a bundle of licenses that manufacturers are permitted to acquire under Vermont law. Manufacturers are also permitted to acquire first or third class licenses depending on the type of alcoholic beverages they produce. To refresh your recollection, first class licenses are on premises consumption licenses that are issued to bars and restaurants. Manufacturers can have a first class license location at their manufacturing site. Third class licenses allow for on premises consumption of spirits and fortified wines, and a manufacturer could hold that, provided they're a distiller or vendor that makes fortified wines. Manufacturers can also acquire second class licenses, which are licenses for the retail sale of closed containers of alcoholic beverages. There are a few others that manufacturers can acquire, but I'll leave those off to the side.
So that's at least 4.
Correct. So first, second, third.
Okay, and so this enables them to do,
This amends their fourth class license statute. And if you move on to page 2, you'll see where the amendments are. To increase for specific types of fourth class license locations, the volumes of alcoholic beverages that can be provided to an individual consumer. So first, this subdivision 1 is divided up so that there are specific limitations, those in current law that will apply for farmers market locations. So to walk you through what the current limitations are: 2 ounces of malt beverages, finest beverages, RTDs with a total of 8 ounces, and 1/4 ounce of spirits per serving, with a total of 1 ounce for the entire encounter between the consumer and the fourth class licensee. That's for farmers markets. Status quo stays in place for farmers market locations. At a tasting room and retail shop, here are the limits. In Romanet 1, an aggregate total of 16 ounces of malt beverages or hard cider. Romanet 2, an aggregate total of 12 ounces of finest beverages or RTDs. And in Romanet 3, 1/4 ounce of spirits or fortified wine with a total of 2.
so that aligns tasting rooms with farmers markets.
It allows the fourth class license holder to serve more of an alcoholic beverage to a consumer at one of these tasting room or retail shop locations. Typically, these are going to be satellite locations that are open to check back in on the contiguous. In subsection C, there is an increase in the number of fourth class license locations where the manufacturer may serve by the unopened container or distribute by the glass beverages. So it increases from 1 to 10. In subdivision A, the number of locations where alcoholic beverages from other manufacturers can be served, that's the university we're working in here, is increased to 10 for all beverages, wines, beverages, or RTDs produced by other licensed manufacturers or rectifiers, and for in subdivision B on page 3, spirits or fortified wines produced by not more than 7 additional licensed manufacturers. So there's a limit on the number of licenses that can be issued and the number of locations where the alcoholic beverages produced by other manufacturers can be served at the same co-located retail location covered by the best license.
I think I heard from the chair that it is limited to other manufacturers or rectifiers in Vermont.
That is because manufacturers, licensed manufacturers, have manufacturing locations in Vermont.
Okay, so I just want to remind myself that that can still get beyond the craft market if somebody owns something in Vermont or they combine a lot of other
If they
products.
open a manufacturing location and pull a license from the DLL, then yes.
It's not, we always were careful about like vineyards versus wineries, you know, because one is producing in Vermont, one's not. You have a little bit of a nuance there. So
Mhm.
this has no nuance.
This is just whoever has gotten this type of license from DLL, and there's a reason for that.
Mhm.
And we haven't had an opportunity this biennium to do a deep dive on some of the constitutional scope of alcoholic beverages regulation. But there's a U.S. Supreme Court decision, Granholm v. Held, that applies the Commerce Clause of the United States Constitution to alcoholic beverage regulations at the state level. So if you are going to have favorable statutes that call out Vermont licensees or provide privileges to Vermont licensees in a way that discriminates against out-of-state producers, you're going to find yourself a bit of a constitutional. Granholm v. Held dealt specifically with interstate sales by shipment, direct to consumer of
For wine.
finest beverages. But the same principle applies. It's been upheld by a few other decisions since the time Granholm was decided. And in fact, the scope of constitutional demands that apply to state level alcoholic beverage regulation has broadened. So that manufacturers also are given some First Amendment protections against the 21st Amendment powers of states over alcoholic beverages.
And what's the name of the decision again? Granholm?
Granholm v. Held. And I can
Because
send
the
a copy
governor
to the committee along with some memos that legislative counsel Damian Leonard produced back when I was a law clerk here. And from what I understand, the committee may also want a primer at some point about Vermont's 3-tier system and tied house laws and maybe Vermont's control state model in general. All of that
Always useful.
stuff. I
Useful
can
as a
send
refresher.
the primers and refreshers that Ledge Council has produced.
And I think I heard from Representative Boyden that House GovOps didn't necessarily talk about tied house.
That is
A
correct.
lot.
It didn't come up in detail.
Yeah, that's, I think,
However, the
where a lot of
primer,
people are stuck on some of these things.
the primer materials were provided to the committee. I don't know that they made it into the testimony of any of the individual witnesses or your diligent, hardworking legislative counsel. But I did share all of legislative counsel's past research, including Damien's lovely flow chart of the.
Yes, he has a great flow chart.
Used to be on the wall back there.
We can put it back up.
Let's print it out. We'll get Tony to make a poster size. He's right there.
Maybe we'll get David to frame it.
Okay, we're in subdivision 2. Page 3, line 4. A licensed manufacturer or rectifier may sell a product to any fourth class licensing. So there are constraints in the current version of the fourth class license statute around how many other manufacturers you can feature at a fourth class license location. The amendments that I just walked through before we went on our little Granholm v. Held excursion. These amendments expand the number of other manufacturers that can be featured by a fourth class licensee, and it allows any Vermont manufacturer to sell their products to fourth class licensees for those like fourth class license location. So it gets rid of the artificial cap. Excuse me, it's very much a real cap in subdivision 2. Section 3, the removal of permit-specific hours of sale. You may remember during the COVID response that there was the creation of a new permit program for first, second, and third class licensees to sell alcoholic beverages for delivery or curbside pickup. That was codified in 7 VSA section 230, and it was codified just as it had been developed during the COVID emergency response provisions. And there were specific limitations on the hours of sale for that permit during COVID that made its way into the codified version in 7 VSA section 230. This repeals those permit-specific limitations on the hours of sale for these permits allowing the sale of alcoholic beverages for all premises consumption. Now, that does not open this up to any hour of the day sale, because in 7 VSA section 62, first, second, third, and fourth class licensees all have limits on their hours of sale that are set by a general statute. So now the licensees who get this permit will default back to the hours of sale that govern their underlying license. Under the reader assistance heading for conforming revisions, local control requirements, 7 VSA section 252 is amended to include a reference to approval by the local control commissioners. This is being added in because the definition in 7 VSA section 2 for this type of license states expressly that approval is required from the local control commissioners, but somehow that didn't make it into the statute that governs the individual license. So it's brought over here so that both the definition and the statutory section refer to approval by the local commissioners. Page 4, under the reader assistance heading for the notice period for retail tasting permits, 7 VSA section 255 and subdivision A1, the notice period that is required for an applicant to get this retail alcoholic beverage tasting permit, it is decreased from 5 days to 1 business day. So the licensee provides 1 business day of notice to the DLL when pulling this permit.
Is that, well, we'll hear from the commissioner if that gives them enough time to actually process the permit.
Anticipated what my answer to your question is going to be if it's a question for DLL. So. All right, under the reader assistance heading on line 15, page 4, distribution by malt beverage manufacturers and a 2028 sunset. We're going to start in the current year, 2026, in 7 VSA section 271, governing the manufacturer's or rectifier's license. And if you flip on to page 5, adds a new subsection G to this section governing the manufacturer's license. It states that a licensed manufacturer of malt beverages specifically may distribute an annual total of not more than 3,000 barrels of the manufacturer's malt beverages directly to holders of first or second class licenses. This subsection has a few details that I'll point out for you. First, this allows for direct distribution just by malt beverage manufacturers, limited by beverage alcohol category. Second, the distribution is going to first or second class licenses. First class licenses, as we covered, bars and restaurants that serve malt or vinous beverages or ready-to-drink spirits beverages. And second class licenses, retail locations that sell closed containers for off-premises consumption. Those would be your grocery stores, gas stations, and other retail alcoholic beverage outlets.
Like general stores.
Quickly note for you that the volume limitation is by barrel. There are many industry terms, and a barrel, I believe, is 51 gallons. So you're looking at 153,000 gallons if you're doing the volumetric conversion.
And maybe this is a question for the commissioner, but why do we need a limit on that? Why can't it be as much as you can sell?
That is a policy question, and not something for me to answer.
And, okay,
Another,
Still here.
Yeah, I can.
yeah, Lucy,
Hi,
you
Meg.
wanna-
We heard testimony from the Vermont Brewers Association that our neighboring states of New Hampshire and Maine also allow self-distribution. If I have my notes, I believe Maine has a barrel limit of 30,000 and New Hampshire it's 5,000 to 15,000. We originally had the barrel limit as 5,000. And the committee, just through testimony, felt like we should do 3,000, but I think it's up near where
Sorry, you said Maine is what?
Maine is. Sorry, 30,000.
And, New Hampshire,
It is 5,000 to 15,000
5,000.
to 15,000.
Oh, that's a range. Okay, right. Thank you.
Do we know anything about New York and Massachusetts?
I do not.
But maybe Wendy does.
Your testimony from somebody advocating for this.
The Vermont Brewers Association. We heard from the association themselves and then also many business owners. So directly from brewers themselves who are advocating for this.
Like,
And they have been for a while.
Are they in the room, just to kind of put a,
That's the Vermont.
that's what.
Yeah, that's what Jess and Jessica and Emma, right. Counselor, back to you.
something to hint here as well, because it came up in the House Committee, they want to get background on it, is how Vermont deals with distribution franchises. There's an entire chapter in Title VII that deals with it. I'm happy to send you some of my notes in summary around specifically the franchise statutory provisions that apply to brewers.
Right.
But we're down to like we're down to 2 distributors.
Right.
So
Right.
that's a huge concern.
There are provisions in there if there are current contracts that might be impacted. I obviously don't know what the contract provisions are, but there are statutory remedies that come into play when there's a deviation from some of these franchise contracts, and you may want to be aware of what some of those.
This is just for malt.
This is
beverages,
just for
though?
malt
Okay,
beverages.
Yeah.
because we're having this problem with wine for finest beverages too, aren't we? That
Well, we'll hear from,
there's restaurants that just can't get certain products.
Lucy.
If I could just refer to some of the testimony that we heard, just overall, we're seeing a large consolidation of our distributors. And so smaller producers tend not to be the most attractive accounts
And
for
not
the
included.
medium to larger distributors that we have within the state.
So did our wineries or vineyards get a chance to say they also are interested?
They very much testified on the bill. From my recollection, they did not provide testimony on this section of the bill.
Okay.
Great.
For other sections, yes.
Okay, all right. Now that we've uncorked that, we'll go through the looking glass.
You and Tom started reading card
I'd love to. All right,
for
so
cannabis and
in section 7, we're in the future. This is the prospective repeal of that subsection G, allowing for direct distribution. And later on, you'll see that this is effective July 1st, 2028. All right, so in section 9,
So this is and who's supposed to track how its success so that we can evaluate it in 2 years?
it's a fantastic question that is not answered within the 4 corners of the bill.
So that's also a pin for us, because how the hell are we gonna evaluate it if we don't keep track? Okay, great, thanks.
In section 8, top of page 6, 7 VSA section 275 is amended to eliminate the certified check payment requirement for the solicitor's license. So this had a very specific provision that required payment of the license by certified check. That is repealed to just require payment.
didn't you try to do that in the past bill? I feel like we've talked about certified checks only. No, it was the cash list.
I think it was cash.
Cashless.
I think we
Like-
addressed cash.
Making everyone take cash. Never mind.
As long as they don't require payments, because that is going to be addressed later. Yeah.
All right, we are back in the time machine for sections 9 and 10. And this is amending 2024 Act 156, sections 3 and 4. because there is a prospective repeal for a two-year pilot and it's set to expire July 1st, 2026. And this was the expansion of the special venue serving permit to allow any retail establishment to acquire this permit from DLO. So that's staying in place. Based under these terms, the prospective repeal is going away and those retail establishments will continue to be able to full venue serving permit.
The special venue serving.
Can I ask,
Very.
can I ask the commissioner?
Well, she's gonna come up in a minute, so.
I'm gonna speak to all of this, all the questions you've had.
I might have to. Okay.
So Tucker, let's finish up.
Effective dates on the very last page, section 11, sections 9 and 10. Delete that 2026 sunset, take effect on passage. Section 7 takes effect on July 1st, 2028. That's the prospective repeal of the, make sure that I use the appropriate term here, the direct distribution in 7 VSA section 271. And finally, all other sections take effect on July 1st, 2026.
And the question mark on the, 28. Great. Any questions for Tucker before we turn to the commissioner?
Should leave early in your last hour.
Good luck with that baby.
Here's a piece of candy for you. Good luck.
Oh,
Yeah, her second child, a piece of candy.
Yeah. It's all
Of
like
course,
that.
the child won't be able to eat it.
No, it's for him.
Oh, it's for him.
Not for that child. He's gonna need candy. Here's my.
Okay.
All right,
Welcome.
good morning. I'm gonna be concise. I hear lots of questions. So Wendy Knight, Commissioner of the Department of Liquor and Lottery. Really quickly, a lot of these are technical corrections, so I'll just identify that they're technical corrections. The 4-year term is such technical correction. We're trying to be consistent with the commissioner's term, which is 4 years. So we'd like the board to be 4-year terms. Let's get into the fourth class license, and Lucy talked about the reasons why. We talked about this probably 2 years ago in this committee.
Who's on the board right now?
I can give you the list.
Okay.
Yeah.
How many people is it?
There are five
Five.
board members. And they rotate. Staggered. So fourth class license, as Tucker laid out, it's for manufacturers. It allows them to have farmer's market permit is a part of the fourth class license and a tasting room. So it's really important for our Vermont manufacturers to be able to have opportunities to introduce their products to out-of-state tourists that come in, second homeowners, other Vermonters that are traveling around the state. And it's been challenging for some of the Vermont manufacturers because of inflation, the lack of Canadian visitors. So they are really looking for the opportunity to sell their products and to have out-of-state tourists sample them, then to go home to their home states and ask for stores and distributors to carry that. And it's how they are really able to create brand experiences. If you could go to an 802 Spirit store, you can find Vermont products, but you're not going to have the same experience as going to a tasting room of a manufacturer.
So this is just for spirits.
Nope.
No, I think that was my next question. Like,
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I was gonna ask, this is for malt, spirits, and Venus.
Yes. The tasting rooms.
All
All
three.
right.
Okay, so we're trying to expand the opportunity for our manufacturers to be able to introduce their product to others. And so what we do at the department when we're looking at proposed changes and we're talking with stakeholders, if it looks to help grow the economy and support businesses and doesn't have a negative public safety implication, then we are in favor of it. So everything that you see in this bill, we've given testimony on in the House that we are in support of what's in this bill.
But you've
Nothing-
also talked to businesses that feel negatively impacted by changes to Tide House.
There are no
There's
impacts
no
to Tide
Tide
House
House.
here, and
If
we're
we
happy
allow
to-
beer to be,
So can I go,
Interesting.
if I go
Yeah.
through this, because I'm happy to give you an outline, the department can send an outline of Tide House. I want to be really clear that over the years, we have modified certain provisions in the statute. So there is not a clear tied house. When we say tied house, we've already, what's the word I want to use?
Obliterated.
No, we've already modified that.
Modified.
Based
Oh, that's
on various stakeholders and various lobbying groups, we've already allowed that. The fourth class license is a great example, right? There you go. You have a manufacturer that you're allowed to have a tasting room. We allow first class and second, third class license.
So I'm trying to understand this, and I don't think we've done this for beer.
If I can, I would prefer to just go through the bill and then identify the questions you have and either follow up, because I have a hard stop.
Okay.
And then
Well, let me keep
if you're
going.
identifying issues that I don't have time to answer, I will happily.
We will come back. We look forward to having you coming back. So we've got
So-
through to line 14 on page 2.
So, yes, so I'm at the farmer's market sampling sizes stay.
Yeah.
The ask of the stakeholders is to allow some changes to the fourth class license. So you're allowing not just sample sizes and be able to buy the bottle, they want to be able to serve by the glass, right? So I go to a tasting room and I'm only allowed a 2% or 2 ounce pour, whatever it is. They would like to be able to have someone come to their tasting room and sit down with a board of charcuterie and have a glass of wine or beer or whatever. The other expansion is right now, you are allowed only one of those tasting room locations where you can have more than your own product. You can have multiple Vermont products. Okay, and this has been designed to allow Vermont manufacturers to introduce their products to tourists and others that are coming through. So that's why the expansion going from 1 to 10. To have other locations. Right now, it's only one that you can have your various cider, beer, RTDs, and wine to up to 10.
And we landed on 10. That's more than.
It's more than one.
Okay.
Okay.
That same question.
I don't know, Lucy, I don't remember how we arrived at 10. I think the department's position was, we had no understanding of rhyme or reason why it was 1. It could be unlimited. I think it was testimony in the House committee that decided to limit it to 10. Lucy?
Yeah, we had a recommendation from stakeholders for 10.
From
stakeholders for 10 here, and the committee felt okay with it.
Right.
10's good enough.
Okay.
So what that means is for those locations, you can have as many products available for sale in those tasting rooms. The only limitation is for spirits, that you're only allowed to bill up to 7 additional Vermont spirits, right? And that's because
In any one tasting room.
correct. And that's because as a control state, Vermont operates 802 spirit stores. That's the only place that you're able to purchase distilled spirits. We have a kiosk model where we are opening them up in more tourist locations, ski resorts, and that's a smaller model where it allows mostly top 50 products, but a lot of Vermont products. The average number of Vermont manufacturers that are sold at those kiosk locations is 14. So the department came up with 7, half of that. In other words, we don't want to have the ability of a tasting room to compete with a kiosk model. So we've limited the amount of spirits manufacturers that can be sold in those tasting rooms. Okay. This section 230, which Tucker talked about, that's a technical correction. We're eliminating the hours here. They were not consistent with the hours that already exist in statute, as Tucker pointed out. Special event permits, that was an oversight. It was never intended to sorry, that's another technical correction.
Because section 4 is a technical correction.
Correct, that's a technical correction because as Tucker pointed out, this particular permit needs local control, and that was an omission when we did that.
Yeah, it wasn't 100%, yeah.
Yes, we are fine with one business day. We do not process our licenses by paper anymore and checks and certified checks and all that nonsense. We actually have an online licensing portal and we can process them fairly quickly there. So
I don't
that's
think
fine.
checks are nonsense.
Well, I still write checks, but for business people,
No, I get it.
we have a much more efficient, modernized process,
Which is
for
great. So
online.
that was my only
Yeah.
concern is what that
Yes.
was doing for you.
I think we should understand the state of consumer protection around best practice because, I mean, we're hearing a lot about intercepted, our waste management system was the victim of a
Yes.
$3 million interception, run a month Maple. So we do have to make sure, I think, we're like still on top of best consumer practice around what's happening with online payments. I'm sure you are, but I think it's
Yeah.
like we're the consumer protection committee
We are.
too, and
Good.
it's a big area of fraud.
It is ever growing. Sadly. So we should
Uh,
figure out.
So
So we're now with line
section
450.
271 on page 5, line, what Tucker pointed out, we're adding binders. That's for parity. Because what we tried to do with this bill is
Yes.
have parity between the different manufacturers. And that's something that I've been advocating for, I don't know, 5 years now, I guess, maybe longer when I was tourism and marketing commissioner. It's always good that the stakeholders, the Vermont manufacturers work together and not pit one against the other. So this bill, I think, begins to have some parity with what's already allowed.
Right. And then that takes us to G,
It takes us to the
the 30,000.
self-distribution. Okay, so this is something I heard when I was tourism and marketing commissioner from 17 to 19. It's very hard for small brewers to find wholesalers. If they have a small amount of product, they want to be able to self-distribute, as you've heard Lucy talk about. This is another example of parity. To your point, Senator Romney-Sale, the wineries are already allowed to self-distribute.
Okay.
So this is another example of parity.
Right.
We don't have a position on whether it's 30,000 barrels or 3,000 barrels. To your point, Madam Chair, you had said, why can it be unlimited? I
Right.
think Tucker pointed out that there are some franchise laws. I will point out that there's been tremendous consolidation over the last couple of years in the wholesale tier, which means Vermont producers have even fewer options to have their products distributed. And that's what this is generating this year, is speaking to that constraint that they have, and they're not able to sell their product because
Right.
they can't find a distributor. We had
And you don't distribute all beverages.
we do not, the state does not.
And we have no concern if we go to 30,000.
We'll hear from the,
Yeah, I don't think we're weighing in on that at all. Right.
I'm not sure if we're able to craft, and we'll hear from
So we're
Jess. You-
solicitors, oh yeah, some of these are just technical corrections, solicitor's license, instead of doing each sheet.
So section 7 is a technical correction of repeal. Is that what you're saying?
Section 7,
Section 7,
that I think is the
rectifier's license that's being repealed.
Barrels thing.
it's the barrel, it's the self-distribution.
Yes.
That's what that is, self-distribution. I already talked about, it's that's 275. Some of these are just technical corrections. Obviously, we don't use certified checks to clean that up. Section 2,
Sorry, so the top of page 6.
yes. The solicitor, in section 275, those are all just technical corrections.
Got
Changing to an individual and getting rid of certified check made payable
Yep.
to us.
it.
and using
Got it.
a payment. 254 is the special venue serving permits. It was never this is an oversight. This is a technical correction as far as I'm concerned, because it was never intended to be 2 years. Remember, Allison, this
Yeah.
came in part because we were being very specific about what was here, art gallery, retail establishment, museum. And so this eliminates that, sunset.
So you do this.
This is where I've brought up that I think we have legitimate concerns from people who didn't know they couldn't subsume their retail license to sell, for example, Vinous beverages, and have a catered event with alcohol on their premises, right? So
This is not, for a licensed, manufacturer. This is not for an establishment that has an existing license.
so I'd like to add that to this bill because
This is for this is for
right.
a business that does not have a license, a standing license. To
For a
get a
special
special event, you have an art gallery, you have a museum, you have a bookstore, they want to have an opening with an author. Make it
No, I get it, 'cause I wrote this, but we never contemplated that. I don't remember us contemplating that if you were a wine shop, with an attached venue space, that you could not subsume, or whatever the word is, put away for the night your retail license so that you could have a consumption event.
Are you talking about the bill or the section that yes, I don't have that in front of me, so I'm happy to check.
But that's where I would put this, because I've tried to say to the rest of the committee, I don't think we don't want them to be able to sell alcohol, sell wine as a retailer, and have an event at the same time. But they could be being used as an event space without any alcohol sales.
So what I will say we do not allow co-located licenses. Okay, so
Give us an example.
we do not allow two different establishments to have their licenses on the same location. So the licenses are given to an entity at a certain location. And I can run this through you in another time or in a memo. But this is not that. This is an establishment that does not have a liquor license, that wants to pull a special venue permit just to have an event.
Yeah, I remember, I think we're.
Right, and I'd like to change that, just because I think DLL, I think some of your staff have seen language from attorneys to try and get it. The question of putting one license away from the other, which we now are talking about doing for cannabis.
So all I'm saying here, this year, is we're repealing the sunset.
Right.
It was
No, I
never
appreciate for
intended to
special event,
sunset. That's all I'm saying.
And we can,
Do you have an opinion on what I'm talking about?
I don't have what you're talking.
Okay, I
Other
have
than
mentioned
saying-
you, and I think
I know you've
emailed
mentioned
to
it to me, but I have not read what you have
Okay.
proposed. All I will
That
say
was months ago,
is,
so.
yes.
There we go.
Mhm.
So
right, we'll.
here I am. I haven't
What
seen
we're
it.
trying to do is
Correct.
understand what we have in front.
So what I am saying is the department does not issue to one location licenses by different entities. And that's what I think what you're speaking about, Senator, is we've had some inquiries over the years of people that are trying to have events and they're wanting to have them at an existing
Licensing.
establishment, and that becomes problematic. And so I'm happy to talk about that specific issue and your
A retail, but a
Mhm.
retailer, because we do special events all the time and
Yeah.
licensees like, resorts and,
correct.
yeah. So I mean, what we're
Correct.
talking about is special events at a retailer.
This year,
No, not this year.
okay,
This
so
year
I
we're clear on.
would love to come back and
We will
talk
come back.
about,
Let's get that proposal to Wendy. Let's reconsider it and we'll chat about it.
that
Okay,
would
let's
be
finish
great.
on this bill.
So this is just repealing the sunset.
Okay,
It was never intended. This language already exists. This is a long-standing statute.
right.
I think that's it, right?
And then just the date. And then my question for you is on that repeal, on the time frame, who's, on section 7 on this self-delivery, who's keeping track of how this succeeds or not? The malt, who in, you don't distribute, but Jess, who do you envision overseeing and keeping track of how successful this distribution is? And if it's working and how it's not working and whether we should be raising the number of barrels. I think that's a question for us. It's, you know, we have this sunset in 2 years. Well, so what are we going to be reviewing in 2 years and who's keeping track of what data do we want?
Isn't that just tax policy?
I don't think so. I think it's more than. Yeah.
I think the
Sorry.
intention.
Oh, right.
No, it's fine. I think the intention here with the sunset is, you know, we do a housekeeping miscellaneous alcohol bill almost every session, or at least once a biennium. So the goal here is that if it's not taken up by the legislature, it would be repealed. So the goal would be to hear from folks within the industry of how is this going, how is it going for the department, or if they have any involvement in it, and just hear from folks. Yeah.
But
And the
what
same
do
thing
you
with
want
the-
now?
I mean, when we set sunsets, we sort of want to know how the program is that we've just enabled.
Yeah.
And so it makes some sense for somebody to be keeping track of how successful it is, how many of our malt manufacturers are taking advantage of this, how they're doing, if
Yeah.
they're selling more as a result. And
So I guess it's up for consideration if the department or if somebody would want to do a report. I would just mention that I think this is just a more common feature within some of the bills, maybe just specifically within House Government Operations that we work on. That's also why you saw the sunset for the inclusion of retail establishments in the special venue serving permits was we had committee members, and the last time we did when this was in 2024, 2 years ago, that they felt uncomfortable expanding that permitting. So they wanted to check back in 2 years and see how things are going. And so we heard testimony 2 years later that things are fine, and that's where we're seeing the repeal of this.
okay, great. Anything else, Wendy?
So all I will say is the department doesn't distribute
I know.
beer. So we would not be the ones to write any sort of report.
I know, you don't want that.
We issue permits, we issue licenses, we can report on that, and we can report on the spirits, like the to-go cocktail. So,
We
I
just
mean,
There is an association of malt producers. Over there,
Perfect.
represented by Jess.
So this speaks though too, right? Like I had lost track that we had allowed what I'm understanding is we've allowed our in-state finest beverage manufacturers
To self-distribute.
to self-distribute. Doesn't necessarily get at all of the concerns our restaurants and consumption license folks have about having only 2 distributors in the state and being limited to what they will distribute. So that is a concern that I heard, is that they might want to offer very particular high-end wines that they cannot get through the 2 distributors in the state.
But,
Should we understand that problem better?
yeah, and I would ask that we consider having we'll just get the finest
the Vermont
beverage.
Grape and Wine Council.
Right, exactly. We'll get the wine council to report on their self-distribution, and Jessica.
Although, I mean, I think what they do is focused on the Vermont industry, whereas I'm talking
That's
about,
what we can control.
well, we also, what we're hearing is that having 2 distributors also affects our licensees that provide have cabaret licenses, essentially. I don't know what they call it better for the state. So they can't get the particular wines they want to get.
No, I'm hearing you on that, and I'd love to hear the wine,
I don't know if it's
the
the
wine
Grape and Wine
association.
Council.
You would be looking at a wine.
It'd be like the Restaurants Association.
Correct.
Yeah.
The Restaurants Association, exactly. Talk about their ability to source products
Yeah, exactly.
from the limited.
Yeah, that's the concern. Ability to source.
distributors. Right.
And Jess, we may want to chat about that with the malt association, malt beverage association as well. Okay, great. Any other thoughts before we bid Tucker adieu? And
He
say,
did eat the candy, didn't
Yeah, that had to go down.
Well, you had to, yeah, test it, make sure it was still okay. Great, then I think we're gonna call it a day. We wish you well, Tucker.
We wish your wife well.
We wish
Anybody. I'm not worried about Tucker.
I'm worried about Tucker too. I'm worried about all three of you.
We're not worried.
And Hank responds to having a baby sibling.
He's a champ already. So he'll be
He's a
fine.
cha- Okay, great. Anyway, thank you, everybody. We're going off live. Wendy, thanks.
I'll get back
Mark,
to you.
Lucy, thank you very much. And